Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of DisasterClass. I'm Jason Prez.
And I am Wesley Long.
And Wesley, we have a great episode today.
Yeah.
After much demand.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
From the fans,
Yep.
we're doing another Office episode.
Yes.
We had so many positive reactions with our Dwight's Fire Drill episode. So on this episode today, we're going to be reviewing the Office episode, Michael Scott Survivor Man. That's going to be on our episode today. So when we come back, Michael Scott, Survivor Man. This episode of DisasterClass is brought to you by Safer Escape. When a fire happens, seconds count. The Modum Retractable Fire Escape Ladder was designed with safety in mind and is always ready when you need it most. It's easy to use, affordable, and dependable. Don't leave your family's safety to chance. Visit saferescape.com to get a free quote and free shipping off your first order when you mention DisasterClass. Visit saferescape.com today or call 725-2ESCAPE. That's 725-2ESCAPE. All right, and we are back. And as we said, we have an amazing episode in store for you today. So we're going to be sharing our reactions of The Office on streaming on Peacock, NBC.
Yep.
One of our favorite shows. There's just so many lessons that we can learn.
That's one way of looking at it.
Yeah. And so last time our lesson was from Dwight Schrute. Now we're getting some valuable not-to-dos.
There's a lot of not-to-dos. a lot of not-to-dos. But hey, if you can learn from someone else's experience, it's still a valuable experience.
That's true.
So there's that.
Yeah. So if you're a fan of any of the Survivor shows like Survival Man, of course, Wesley, you like Naked and Afraid.
Love Naked and Afraid.
So there's, the survival shows have been around for a long time, and Survivor Man was a really popular one. So Michael Scott's going to try to do his own version.
His version of
Survivor Man.
Oh my
so
goodness.
we're gonna play the clip. We're gonna pause it as we go through and discuss maybe some lessons we can learn. So Wesley, if you want me to pause, just tell me to pause,
okay.
and we'll go from there. So let's pull it up.
All right, here we go.
And here we go.
Dwight and I are going out.
So in the first scene, Michael and Dwight are in the office. They go up to the reception desk, talk to Pam, and Michael basically tells her what he's going to do. He's going to go off into the wilderness and try to survive. And she asks, should I ask where you're going? And no, he's not going to tell her where she's going.
Listen. Just off the jump, from a practicality standpoint, and we've talked about this before, if you're going to be, again, the concept of testing a plan, putting together a full-scale exercise, love that.
Yeah.
Do you think it's important, Mr. Emergency Manager? Do you think it's important to let people know where you are? If you're going to be doing something like this?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Right.
Yeah, and because even when in emergency management, when we're planning a large exercise, there's safety measures in place.
100%.
And so there's ways to distinguish, okay, is this part of the drill? Is this part of the exercise? Or is this real life?
Right.
And so, even when we've done exercises in the past, you were working the Sims radio. And so there's codes you have to use.
Correct, because we're going over live air and people could be listening, hearing, oh my goodness, there's a situation in that building. Maybe we need to respond. We have to let people know where we are, what we're doing. More communication is almost always better than less.
Yeah. And so we're a big proponent of drills, testing, exercise, because when you go through that motion of testing out, putting something into practice, right, that's a great way to get experience. You're going to identify, what to do, what not to do, what things you want to change, what worked, what didn't work.
And some of the biggest things I feel with testing is filling the gaps, right? That's our thing right now as we're focusing on businesses, right? Some businesses have some plans. Their plans may not be all hazard plans. They may not be all inclusive. Usually when we go in and we do a third-party assessment, we're going to find that there's some gaps. Running a tabletop, we're going to see some gaps really quick.
Yeah.
right?
Yep, absolutely.
So tabletop, full scale exercise. We're gonna see where there's a need.
Absolutely. And so on a personal level, so if you're, just doing something fun with the family, one of the things we've talked about on previous episodes was, get the family involved, get your go bag, go out hiking, camping for the weekend and test out your gear. It's a great thing to get the muscle memory and find out, what do you like and what works.
So on balance, the concept of what Michael is doing,
the theory is there. It's good.
The theory is there, right?
It's good.
Step one, let people know where you are.
Let people know where you're going.
We're not even into it yet, and there's already some what not to do. Yeah, already. All right,
let's continue.
Yeah.
This is what a true survivor man does.
So in this next clip, Michael and Dwight, they're in the car. They're on the way into the wilderness. Michael's explaining that he's concocted up this scenario that he's being basically chased by a serial killer, and he's got to go try to get away from him.
Creepy guy who's abducted me.
Then he's going to put a blindfold over his eyes so he's disoriented and doesn't know anything about his surroundings.
I can't retrace my steps.
Yo, the heel, I love it. I love Dwight. I absolutely
He's so ridiculous.
I love it.
So we got another component of an exercise here.
Okay.
Right? So a simulation, a scenario, right? That's a good thing when you're doing an exercise, whether you're a business, whether it's for your family, right? Doing some sort of scenario, something that's realistic. You want to do something that's going to be common,
right?
Like something that's going to be very likely to happen.
Correct.
Right? Necessarily simulating a zombie apocalypse or nuclear holocaust is not...
That's not going to be productive.
Could it happen? Sure. But is it likely to happen?
Not so much.
Not so much. So do the things that are we focus on our high probability.
Yes.
High impact events.
Absolutely.
That is,
Right.
And then those are the scenarios we try to test and work through it. So, well, I guess being abducted by a serial killer could happen.
Right. And also, none of that is necessary. The bottom line is you're alone in the woods. How necessarily or why, all of that is just Michael Scott's fan. Like, you're alone in the woods. Okay, that's not a horrible scenario in and of itself.
Right.
Yep.
All right, let's see what else he gets himself into. So finally, they get to the wilderness. Michael is still blindfolded. Dwight gives him a little turnaround to try to confuse his and disorient him even more.
Spin. I'm trying to confuse your sense of direction.
Then they go ahead and they part ways, and Michael goes off into the wilderness. Maybe let's want to talk about what he has. So he has a knife.
A knife?
He's got duct tape. He had some sort of food. Like, there's a little bag there.
Yeah, there's a little bag.
He had some sort of food option.
Not horrible for the essentials right now.
Not horrible.
Yep. Minimum survival standard.
What do you think are some big things missing there?
Oh, everything out. So,
one key, what's number one on our essentials list?
Food, shelter, air, water.
Water. Yeah, no water.
He's got no water.
No water.
And he's not near, it doesn't look like he's near a viable water source, although if he's in Pennsylvania, there's probably a lake nearby if he can find a way to clean that.
Yeah, but also, so he doesn't have water with him, but now, okay, if you're going to forage for water or you're going to try to find a water source, is that water source, is it contaminated? Is it potable? Are you able to drink from it? So...
Yeah, and I think the prevailing theory on that is even if you're finding a fresh water source as opposed to salt water, you're gonna have to clean it. You're gonna have to clean it. So you're gonna have to have some process for cleansing that water, whether it's a purification tablet, but that's not gonna remove the grit.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have a container for it.
He doesn't have a container. Bleach, even a couple drops of bleach could actually clean it to the point where you could drink it and the bleach wouldn't harm you. Over a fire source, if you can heat it, get it to boiling, that would sanitize it. The water filtration filter, right? There's a bunch of options. Yeah. There are ways to clean water, but he has none of that.
No, he has none of that. So, yeah, that's the point. There's options, but he hasn't thought of that, right? Nope. He has no bottle, no way of collecting water, no way of filtering it. So at this point, if he is getting to the point where he needs water, his only option is really like drinking out of a stream or something.
And again, even if you in that worst case scenario, right? So again, even with that, there's prevailing wisdom and there's some approaches to that.
Better than nothing.
Always moving water instead of standing water.
Right.
If you can find rapids, white water, right, where it's going through rocks, that will help clean it a lot. You would drink that as opposed to before. Even with nothing, there can still be a process for making it as safe as possible and getting the best option. But I'm sure he doesn't have any of that in his mind right now.
As we will see.
Right.
So in this clip, Michael, he's sitting on a tree branch, and he's basically saying that he just brought the bare essentials, a knife, some duct tape, and he doesn't say it, but it looks like he's got a little bag of like granola or something like that.
Make some sort of water vessel.
Just like, again, like we're trying to apply the laws of practicality to this. You could just sit in the shade.
Right, he's in the sun.
Like, there's plenty of, you're in a forest, there's plenty of shade, but he found the one spot where his body is full on in the sun. Hilarious.
Yeah.
Only
Let's see what he's gonna do.
Because
So now he's hot because he's sitting in the sun. He's got his suit coat on, and then he takes a large knife and starts
Good terminology.
cutting off the pant legs of his suit while he's still wearing them with a large knife to remove them, to give him some relief from the heat. All right, so so back
beautiful.
up.
Okay,
Let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
So he's getting warm
Mhm.
because he's sitting in the sun.
Right.
So he starts to turn his pants into shorts,
right.
with a large knife.
A large knife.
While
Large
wearing
while wearing
the pants.
Yep.
So let's perform a little risk assessment here. What could possibly go wrong, Wesley?
I'm surprised he didn't nick an artery while he was doing that.
Yes.
Right.
That could have been a very
Right.
real
The episode would be over right then.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Game over.
Right.
So, yeah, and now what he's done is essentially ruined his
He's ruined his
clothes.
pants. And that's the thing. There's no planning ahead, right? Because it's like, okay, once the sun goes down,
it's going to get cold.
it's probably going to get cold. You wish you hadn't cut your pants because now your legs are cold.
Right.
So it's just...
Oh, craziness.
Yeah,
All right.
He did have a hat. This is good,
Well-
right? You in the cold to keep, a large percentage of your heat leaves through your head, so to have something on it is,
That's not his hat.
I know it's not his hat. It's a pant leg. You can
It's a
see by
pant leg.
the ironed in seam there. Yeah, no, I get it. I'm just I'm trying to find
You're trying to find something
something positive.
All right. You're such the optimist.
I'm trying.
Well, take a look
So
at
Michael
this.
has taken his pants and his suit coat, and he's duct taped them together over a couple of fallen branches to create a tent so that he can get out of the elements. All right, let's
Try to fashion a shelter.
So he's taken his clothes and he's turned them into a shelter.
Right.
Um,
Well, let's start with this. Here's what I want to start doing, because he's in the perfect position for us to start doing this. We're going to start creating a series very soon called It Takes a Village, where we're going to be doing different things with some gaming, some different things. So you find yourself in the middle of nowhere. First thing you need to do is start gathering resources, right? You should make a steady look for what you have around you that you can utilize, especially while one of the resources is daylight.
Right.
That is a resource. Use that resource immediately. He's had a ton of daylight. He could have found who knows what within a very short walk without expending too much energy, which is also a resource, right? So right now you've got energy and sunlight. He could be looking for resources.
building a fire, gathering wood.
Correct.
Like
gather wood
while
in
it's
that
light.
sequence. Gather wood, build a fire, right? You do that while it's light and when you have a lot of energy, so that when it's dark and you're cold and you're hungry and you're tired, you're not trying to do those things.
Right.
Right? So again, there's some concepts here that we can be actually looking at and applying. So one of them is shelter. Very important to start getting shelter done, again, when you have the resource of light and when you have your resource of energy. Great concepts. You do want to do those things early. But again, do you want to be taking from your pants to do it, right? And
Yeah.
maybe you're in that situation where that's the only thing you have. But again, you could have easily looked for other resources. You could use branches, you could use leaves. There's a lot of ways if you have nothing that you could work with.
Right.
Stuff.
And the last thing you want to do is because your clothing is
a line of protection.
such a protection, so you don't want to damage those, because now you're, even though in theory it's like he's providing himself cover, but he's actually exposing himself even more by removing his clothes, because now his the body heat's escaping quicker than it would with this. So it's and
then also too, you're opening yourself up for all manner of critters.
Right.
Right. It'd be nice to have long pants on if you're laying on the floor, right? And then it's just there's a lot here.
Yeah. All right, let's see what else Michael does.
Oh, Michael.
Now Dwight he's watching Michael from afar, and he's using the scope of his rifle and switches the safety on. So, okay.
Gun safety, we're gonna get
gun safety lesson.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so Dwight
he's got a gun pointed at somebody with the safety off.
Trying to keep an eye on him, so he's using the scope of his rifle, and safety is
now on. Oh, Dwight.
Oh, don't do that.
Oh, guys.
All right.
Yeah.
So now Michael, he's filming himself. He notices some mushrooms along the base of a tree, and he picks them up and starts to put them right into his mouth, starts to eat them, these random mushrooms that he doesn't know anything about. Dwight sees it, starts to freak out, and runs over and tackles Michael to try to get him to spit up the mushrooms, which are most likely poisonous.
As Dwight is running toward him, like, what is going on? But again, very important, food.
Yeah, so foraging for food is something great that you can do.
But you got to know what you're doing.
You got to know what you're looking for.
Right. And what can hurt you.
Right. Just putting random mushrooms in your mouth is not the way to go. Good idea.
Not the way to go.
So there's actually, I actually had a book for like the Northeast area, and it was all about edible plants and stuff, and how to identify what you can do with it. So there's a lot of resources out there that you can, if you're interested in foraging, learning how to. There's some great books and resources out there. That
and not
will
for
teach
nothing,
you.
if you have your phone and it still has battery, right? Again, looking at the concept of if you're going away, you have this on your person and you have signal and you have your phone. Sure, there's apps for that, right? There's a lot of resources that you can avail yourself of so that you don't hurt yourself further.
Right.
Because now you got a medical emergency on top of it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
So
yeah, I love it.
A lot of lessons we can learn from Michael Scott. More lessons on what not to do.
But let's look at the lessons of things to do.
Right.
What I do love is, again, the optimism, right? What I do love is the fact that he wanted to test his readiness.
Right. Which is great. We encourage that.
Love that.
Love
that. And he wanted to do basically a full-scale scenario of that test, a full exercise. Love that. Made the time to go do it during working hours. He's supposed to be at the office at work right now. Right. But again, he did buy out the time to go and do that, which in and of itself is great. And he carried through with it, right? I think about how many times we have our CEP class, or we're talking to individuals in passing, and they always say, "Oh, I wish I could do this. I would." Well, do it.
Yeah. And right. So obviously Michael learned a lot of lessons doing this. And when if you actually do something like this, where you go out testing camp, like I love backpacking. I love camping. My first time backpacking was a little bit of an experience because I planned ahead as best as I could, but until I actually did it,
right?
I learned a lot. A lot of it's theory until you prove it, and put it into action. So after that first trip, I realized, okay, you know what? I'm doing this different next time. I'm doing this. I thought I needed that. Getting rid of it. I remember one of the things I was almost over prepared because I had too much stuff, and my backpack was so heavy that it really weighed me down. And so you kind of have to pick and choose, and then you figure out what you need, what you don't need, what's a luxury, what's not. And so, I mean, if you're going to do something like this, there's going to be a learning curve. You're going to make mistakes.
Yeah, the first time you do
But
it, it's going to be the
learn from it.
roughest. And here's the adage, right? And this is what our recommendation is from Instinct Ready. Whether you're buying a kit from us, whether you're putting your kit together, which we still say the best kit that you can have is one that you put together yourself.
Yep.
Right? It just, as long as it meets the minimum survival standard, and that's something we talk about. We got that information on our website of the minimum things that you should have in your kit. The bottom line is the first time you use it, it's going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So here's the question. Would you rather the first time be in your control, in your setting, or when your life actually depends on it?
Right.
Right? The choice is ours. The first time you do anything, you're not going to be good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to get that first one out of the way as soon as possible. So that's our recommendation.
Yeah.
Get the gear, test it.
Absolutely. And so that's the personal level. Now
Yeah.
let's transition talking about the organizations,
Love
right?
that. Mhm.
So, we're working with organizations like schools, universities, businesses, helping them prepare and put together plans.
And the concepts
and
transition.
Right. Yeah, it's all the same concepts, right? But if you have a business, if you have an organization, like for example a school, right? Schools are required to have plans for the most part. But you also need to test the plans.
Correct.
Training, exercises, drills,
Yep.
right? That's a way to uncover what works, what doesn't work, where are the gaps.
That's it.
And then that can help feed the planning process for reevaluating and redoing your plans, right? So as you do an exercise, hey, you know what? We missed this.
Yeah.
This we didn't account for. So now we're going to address that. And when we redo our plans, we're going to fix that.
Yep.
And so it's the same with organizations. It's the same with personal preparedness. Testing it is a big portion of preparedness.
Huge.
Because you learn a lot when you do it.
Absolutely. So that's the message, right? So from Michael Scott Survivor Man, the concept, sound, right? For personal, for business, come up with a plan and test it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Love that. Awesome.
Well, this was a fun episode,
Yeah, this was fun.
Wesley. I mean, I love The Office. I could
Absolutely.
if I could, this is awesome. Just watch The Office and
Yeah.
see what lessons we can learn. There's a few other episodes
There's more.
that there's
More to
there's some good lessons. So
Yep.
we'll watch those and bring those to you later.
Yeah, we'll get you guys, we'll keep you posted.
Yeah. Well, before we conclude this episode of Disaster Class, as always, there is homework.
There is homework, so we're hoping that you guys can like, subscribe, leave some comments, leave a 5-star rating. We always want to hear from you guys. A couple things. One, in this episode, anything that you liked, anything that you thought Michael Scott could do better, please, let's continue the conversations. If there's anything else from The Office or any other entertainment that you're like, hey, that would be kind of cool, it'd be kind of cool to discuss that, we're open to that. We're going to, like It Takes a Village, we're going to be having some fun with that coming soon. You guys are going to see more from us in that regard. And literally, it's going to be a shared gaming experience that we're going to offer the opportunity for our listeners and viewers to join us in some gaming, some survival games that have just come out that we're going to be tinkering with. So we're going to have some fun with that. We're getting things set up now so that we can have that interactive experience with our viewers, because you guys keep reaching out, kind of want more and more of us, and we're going to make ourselves available for that. But in the meantime, just like, comment, subscribe, please, 5-star rating. All of that helps the channel quite a bit.
Yeah. And so if you have a question, you have a preparedness tip, a disaster story to share, or something else you just want to talk and get some feedback on, we're happy to talk and, email, set up a call, whatever. So send us an email at disasterclass@instinctready.com or drop us a message on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. And doing so will put you in the running to be featured on the show and win some cool prizes. So thank you so much for listening to Disaster Class. Stay educated.
Stay prepared.
Stay equipped. Class dismissed.
See you guys.